Hi everybody, Creative Katie, Karen Burchell. Today we are in the category of color, and we are going to use color, and yes, that color wheel, to help us match backgrounds and focal points. I often get asked the question, how do you know? And I wanted to come up with a better answer than we'll just try things on. And there's a lot of auditioning pieces and trial and error and looking what seems right. The truth is, when I started art journaling, I would end up with a page I liked or didn't like, as the case may be. And I just kind of followed my instincts. I've been using a lot, I've crafted a lot, and I've done a lot with color, and I just kind of follow it, and I go with my instincts, and I look and I see what looks right, and I go with that. But that's not very helpful to come on a video and say, oh, just follow your instincts. Because if you're new or you don't have a lot of experience with working with colors and creating, either you don't have that skill yet because you're new, or you don't trust that you have that skill because you're new. So I wanted to come up with some guiding principles without getting too technical, because I haven't studied color theory, I haven't studied that. So regardless of whether you start with a focal image, like these magazine cutouts, you start, and I call this the top down, you start with the image and then you want to create a background that is going to look good. Or if you have a background and you want to put a focal image on that's going to look good. So what I did is I went through all my journals, and I must have 5 or 6 of them. And I looked at each of the pages, specifically at the focal point, the relationship between the focal point and a background. If I thought the page worked well, it's like, yeah, I'm really happy with this. Okay, why? Why did it work? What I came up with was 3 different ways to guide your decision making when it comes to focal points. You can use, and they are the ABCs of matching focal points to backgrounds. Now, the A stands for analogous. Choosing to use analogous colors in the focal point that are like apples to apples. You're putting similar things on top of similar things. This page right here, we have the image, and it's all one color family. It's all in here. The focal point in this case is the quote or the spiral. Okay, so there's lots of ways of getting a focal point, but they're all the same colors. They're all analogous. So that is an A color scheme, matching focal points to colors. B stands for black, bold, where you're dealing with a lot of contrast, black or bold. Now, this one right here is kind of follows that black and bold. This one is a good example. You get a strong amount of contrast. You're using white or black, and it's very bold. It stands out from the background. I could put this same focal point on any color background and get a lot of oomph with it. So using black in a lot of ways, and I'm going to show you several of those because I'm going to go through my my journals and show you lots of examples of each. So A, analogous, Be bold, black, high contrast, white. You're going to use that to get that real energy and that pop. The last one is using complementary color. Now the complementary color is the color that is opposite a color on the color wheel. So if I had a background that was primarily in the blue shades over here, and I've created this beautiful background and I think it's just absolutely wonderful, I'm going to go across and see what's colors across it and consider finding a focal point or using colors in the focal point if I'm coloring it, because I might have a stamped image of a crazy bird or a prima doll or something like that, and then I can choose the colors that I color it that are going to go with this. Now I don't follow always directly. I might go a little to the left, a little to the right, depending on all the factors of what's in that background, because I usually have more than one shade of color. It's not just going to be blue. It might have 3 colors in here. So I would pick anything that would be over here, so opposite. So those are the ABCs. So let's look at some of the examples in my journal, and then we are going to create at least 3 tags. I'm going to suggest that you create 3 tags. One that's using an analogous color scheme to match the focal point to the background. One that uses bright, black, bold colors that are opposite. And we'll look at some examples for that and see complementary colors. So I have my CanSit Mixed Media journal here, and I have my other journals, and I'm going to go through a lot of them, and I'm going to give you examples, and we are going to label them A, B, or C. I've kind of done that, but I'm going to give you a little bit more information. So there is going to be a lot of talking in this video, but I can't think of a better way than to show you what I'm talking about. This page is a bright, bold black page. I've stenciled black focal points onto a very colorful page, and that works. So this would be a B. This one has a blue background, and the focal point and the background of the quote are orange. And if you look on here, there's the blue and orange is across. So this is a C, complementary color scheme. Now, when you look at it, you'll also note that there are tiny flecks that are stamped in that pick up this, because sometimes the texture that you create, visual or physical, in the background also works with the focal point and gives you yet another or a better reason to match them together. Another focal point that basically was orange may not look as good because it wouldn't have that textural connection as well. This one is an A. This is an analogous color matching. The colors that are in the flower are the same as the ones that are in the background, right? Like is like. All the neighbors are there. The focal point of the word, I've used bold and black to make it stand out, the starkness of the white, bright, bold, or black. And that kind of really brings that in. This one is another one. We had a very colorful background and I stenciled black onto it. And that really makes the focal point work with the background. Now this also went with the quote. I was wanting to do an autumn page, so that's what was inspiring it overall. This page, depending on how you look at it, which one you think is the focal point, the background is basically in the blues and teals. And this color of this is kind of in there. So that would be an Aglaus. However, the moon, which takes up about a quarter of the page, which is also the focal point, is right across. It's yellow and it is across from. So this is kind of a combination of complementary color theory going into place and an Aglaus. This one is an Aglaus. The colors that are on the snowman are the same colors that are in the background. Same thing with the angel. We have the blues and the purples in here. These are the colors that went into the background and the here's another example of an Aglaus. We have the blues and then the teals and purples. So I remember actually when I was doing this and I knew I was going to have, because I was working with the coat, I wanted the earth and I had those colors. So I knew I wanted to do the stamping in kind of the teal. And when I was choosing a secondary color, I went and I picked kind of that red violet color to work with it. Now on this one, because the quote is one time around, it's lyrics to a song, and I had the roundness of the earth. I also have the roundness of the spirals. So we have several layers that help match the focal point. This one is in an Aglaus color scheme. And again, you can see which are my favorite colors. So when I was deciding what color to paint her umbrella, her tights, and her scarf, I just went and I went down the list of the Aglaus colors to match it. Now this is a good example of doing a background and having a perfectly lovely background, and then the background sits for a while. And that's what happened with this one. Now here, I actually did get out my color wheel, because at this time I had started to figure things out a little bit. And I found that where I was, and I went across. And so when I was coloring or deciding on jelly prints to use for my Prima doll, I selected ones that were complementary colors to what I had in the background. Now I just so happened, and I'm not going to be able to find it here because I want to, I did that background somewhere else because I liked it so much, and I had it here. Now for this one, because I put focal point of the eyes that tied in with the quote, so that helped me select the image. But with the different eyes, and I have a folder of body parts and eyes and things like that, I wanted to get a color that was analogous, that the color of the eyes or the eyeshadow matched the background. And so you can see that the blue, teal, green eyes that we have, and then down here, I'm going to turn it upside down, you can see the eyeshadow matches what I have in the background. So in this case, I started again with the background. I had both of these peacock backgrounds. One I went with a complementary colors to help guide my focal point selection. Here I use the analogous colors to point myself in the right direction. Here is an example of an analogous color scheme. When I was sketching the butterflies, I already had the background, I already had the texture. I really had no idea where this was going to go, as is the case for most of us. So I wanted something that moved, so it was going to be something that was alive, so that brought me to butterflies, which I have a whole stash of, and you're going to see those, but trying to select the color. So I had a little bit of yellow here. So mostly my background is these colors. So I kind of chose a butterfly that was still an analogous color to the background. It has that teal blue, it's kind of a cross between these two, but it also has the yellow, which is a cross from the blue and purple that's in the background. So this is kind of a combination of, because your background isn't one color and your focal point isn't going to be one color either. You're going to have shades and texture. I also liked, in this case, we also had some textural patterns that also got picked up in the butterfly. So we have these little boxes here, and it kind of mirrors what you find on the butterfly as well. So this one, I hope I remember every time. This one is B. It's bold, bright, you have that contrast, and it's black. Silhouettes, using silhouettes is one really good way, and I use it often to match the focal point to the background. This one as well is using a silhouette and black to match the focal point with the background. Now in this one, I've also, after the fact, I've splattered on the whole page, and that makes everything go together. And those are kind of finishing details that maybe will be covered in that category. Here's another, oops. Here is another B, bright, bold, black. We have the silhouettes again in the words, which are the focal point, as well as the image. Another B. This one is actually a complementary color. If you look at the background, I have primarily the blues back there. And then when I chose the color of the sign, I went across. And that's where the colors, why I chose those colors in the sign. And the hats of the Santas are either, again, this one's complementary, these two are analogous. So when you're making your decisions, you can keep referring. And I do actually, there are times that I actually pull this out after I've created a background and said, okay, what's on the other side? And that's my starting point. So we said this one is a bright, bold black. This one, and there are videos for most of these pages. So if you go and you check in my art journal tutorials, you'll probably find them if you're looking for them. And in some of the later ones, once I started figuring out why things worked, you'll see me actually bring out the color wheel and explain my decision making. And that's what happened, I know, on this page. Now, selecting the turtle for this background, I chose the turtle because it was an Anaglyph. It's kind of the same colors. It's green and it's kind of dark blue in the tortoise, or in the sea turtle here. And I kind of has that mottled look that I created by my finger painting, and that kind of coordinates with that. The other reason that I picked this over the other focal point is because of the match of the texture. Here you have visual texture of the underbelly of the sea turtle, and I had put this stencil through modeling paste through a stencil, and I had painted it kind of the same color. So it's Anaglyph, it's the same color, but you also have that texture. So that helped me decide this focal point as opposed to another one that may have still been followed along the colors of the background. This one, I put the focal point on a coffee filter, but I decided to color it because, so I got my colors and then I went, what is a cross? And the reds, oranges, that's what's a cross, and that's what I used, and it just really made it pop. And then I used black in the detailing and other things there. So this one is a bee. Again, I've used silhouettes in the black, so it's bright and bold. You get that really sharp contrast in that. This one I use two different ways to choose my colors. So again, there's the colors of my background, and I went kind of across. I have some of the oranges a little bit there. So I went a little bit with the complementary colors, a little bit with the Anaglyph colors, because I have the yellow that kind of is right next to that lime green that I used. So I would say this one's probably more Anaglyph than. Okay, so here we have the blue background, and then I looked at the color wheel to decide where I'm going with it. There's the blues that I have, and across we have yellow. So that's why I color the bird yellow and orange, a complementary color. Here's another complementary color. We have the sky, or the underwater sea, that's all blues and the greens. So we're all in this zone here. And I just went across to the orange, It's also nature. We have, starfish that are that color. But that's why it all worked together. So I have all these backgrounds. Some of them were kind of failed attempts. There's my smooshing. There was the plastic wrap watercolor. There's using gesso through a stencil. Other ones tags that you see here are just some jelly prints. And I grabbed the jelly prints because I wanted to have some instant texture. There was another one that I did. It was clean up, I think, with the smooshing and the gold. Here is a tag that I was trying out a stencil, and so we have that one as well. So we have a lot of varieties of colors. So I figured most of the time it's a matter of, we have the background, we have the jelly print like this, we've created the background, now what? So I'm going to kind of go through the process that I went through in preparing for this with you. And again, there's a lot of talking and a lot of auditioning, because at the end of the day, you know, I may say, okay, with this one or this one, these are blues and greens. So we have, here is the color wheel, right? So if I want to stick to an Aglas, I'm just going to go maybe a little bit to that side or a little bit to this side to put the focal point on. Or I might go across the pond to try and get a complementary color. If neither of those work, that's where I go for the plan B, so to speak, and go for the bright, bold black, that high contrast. So, now with this one, if I'm getting my color wheel, so we have blues and teals, and we have the bubbles, and there's some texture there. So the bubbles are going to, you know, we want that to read well with whatever focal point we put on there. So we're really right here. So right across from it are the red, orange, and orange. If we want it to stay in this family, we're going to go blue, violet, maybe to the yellow, green. So this is where I go to my focal points, to my magazines, to my free printables, and decide. So if I wanted to go to the lime green, I might try some of these. And you know, that's okay, but it doesn't really pop. I like this one better, because this one has the circles in it that kind of reads with the circle there. But, you know, while it would be an interesting card, I think I can do better. Now, if you don't have free printables, you can have stamps of butterflies, and then you choose to color them the colors that you're choosing. Or you can use like coloring book ones where then you color what color you want. So then I'm thinking, okay, so let's stick in the blues and the teals. So I have these butterflies. And I kind of really like that. This has the added benefit of the black, and the body is yellow, which is complementary color. No background is going to be just flat one color. No focal point is going to be flat one color. So I don't mind that at all. So what I would do here is I would take a picture of it and then decide, you know, look at it and make that decision. Let's audition something else here. So let's see if we can get complementary colors. So we're in the teal blue. We're blue, green, blue. Right across is kind of orange, red, orange, and yellow. So then I have these butterflies. Now they really pop, and that's what you're going to get. You're going to get that pop of color when you're using colors that are across from each other on the color wheel. Both of these are great. There is not a wrong answer. If in the end you like it, that's what you use. So I'm just going to put this one aside. So we have this tag, and I have a jelly print on there, and there's blues, there's yellow, orange, kind of coral, there's bubbles and circles, there's layers, there's all sorts of interest there. I could, so there's the colors that we are in. I could put some red ones on there, like that. And if they were bigger like this, I could just put one. And I could, you know, with some detailing, bring out that circle if that was something that was necessary. I could add some littler ones. I could, again, this would be a necklace. I have this, and if you're putting this down, you would be taking your Stabilo or using the floating technique to outline it, and that would make it stand out from the background. So there's things that you're going to do that are going to help separate it if it's too close. So we could do that. Across from the yellow is kind of blue. We have a blue kind of butterflies here. And there is blue in this, but that one's a definite no. I'm going to go with silhouette here. So I'm using the bold, but then in this one, this butterfly, I'm using analogous colors. I'm using colors that are in the background, and I'm using little butterflies. So we have this tag. So we are still kind of in that same category a little bit, but we are very definitely here. Going across would be teal and blue. So we had some of these teal butterflies. And now I could put these red ones on, and that would be analogous because we're dealing with colors that are in the same neighborhood. And we could go with coral. Now that, I mean, it totally goes. And if I outlined it with the Stabilo and I edged the butterfly with black, it probably would pop. But I've got even paler ones. You know, so this is kind of what I do. And, you know, everybody does it. We call it auditioning them. Now, I like this one best because of the contrast with that black. But none of them are really grabbing me right now. So then I have this, which is still, so we're right here, and this actually has the orange and it has some yellow in it. So it is still analogous. We're moving down, it's still next door neighbor. And I kind of like the smooshing that's on here kind of matches if you look close. Oops. To the butterfly, you can see that smooshing. but I kind of like the movement that this kind of can give. I might not glue that down till I decide what kind of quote I may want. And you can play with how you're going to arrange them as well. I could put them going down like that. And you know, I print out my quote ahead of time and have something going down this side. But I really like that choice, so I think I'm going to go with this. But I'm not 100% sure if I'm going to use 3 or 5 of them, and I don't know where my quote's going to go, so I'm not going to glue that down just yet. And we have lime greens and blues and teals, and then we have some black and, you know, all that wonderful stuff that you get by jelly printing. So most of the time when I do my pages, mostly I stick with an Anaglyph color scheme, or I go to the black, bold, bright contrast. Occasionally I use the complementary color in the focal point, but that's not something I go to all the time. So if I want it to go across the street from the blues, we have orange and there. So I could try these guys again. And nope, they're just not going to happen. I can put a blue one there. And that one's not bad. It would come up a little bit more when I add the black Stabilo or watercolor pencil or the thing around it. And we have that one. Are you telling me which one? And we have that one. We've got this one. No, and it's hard because lime green is not my color of choice. So, it's very rare that I would be choosing that. I like these because they all have the black in them. This one is more monotone, just green, so I'm going to eliminate that. What about this guy? No. I kind of like this one the best. We have the swirl pattern in the background and it kind of reads with it, but I like the boldness of the colors. And we have the lime green and the green, and that just seems to work. So I'm just going to set that aside. Now we have this one. So there I put some yellow in it. Now there's some gold in this. We have purple, we have teal. That's going this way. We have purple, teal. So we're in here. And then we have gold, which is a complementary color. So the gold already in the pattern through the jelly printing is in there. So that can go, and that's giving you the bold, bright kind of contrast. It's also complementary color there. Now, I have this little guy. We can have that. So this again, we're using a complementary color. Now one of the things that I like doing is using the wings and put a girl in front. Kind of liking that. Kind of like that contrast in there. And then we have the shape here. We have that little round, which kind of goes with the round. There's a little bit of purple in there. Then we have this one, and it's a thin tag. So we're over on this side of the color wheel. We really did go all the way around. So I could put some green ones on here because the green is in there. Nope, not liking it. The lime. No. We could go with this guy. In there. Some coral. So, okay, I kind of like that because the texture, again, of the jelly print, I was using a onion bag or an orange bag. You see that same kind of texture in that butterfly. So when I went through my stash, because that one little butterfly, I did find this. We have this one with all the texture. Now we're deep red. We're in there, but we've also used some yellow kind of in the gold area. So we could go over from the red to some green. And again, that's just too Christmas-like to me. You know, again, green isn't one of my colors, so it's rare that I'm going to grab green. How about these guys? Does that look better? What do you think? It's a lovely butterfly, but I don't think it looks great there. This butterfly, which is a Synalgulus, so I basically have the same color, and I've kind of matched. You can see the texture, the pattern on the wings kind of reads with the texture in the background. So I kind of like that in there. Now I have these other butterflies that have kind of the same texture but are yellow. And I'm thinking I almost like this more. You know, one, and this is where both fit according to the Naglus color scheme. Both I could make work, so which one do I like the most? I could throw that yellow one in. Again, there is no right or wrong. It comes down to personal just choice, you know, and just trust. If you like it, you know, go with it. I think I'm going to go with that one. After looking at the pictures of the options, I made my selections. The focal points had been glued down with matte gel medium. I also did some finishing work, outlining, shading, splattering, and edging. Tag 1 is the complementary color scheme. Tag 2 is B, bold and black. You get that sharp contrast with the silhouette. Tag 3 could be Naglus or black and bold. Tag C is an Anaglis color scheme. This one is a black and bold because the background is black and bold and the image has the color. So it's kind of opposite. Anaglis color scheme with the large play of the texture in both things. Anaglis color scheme or black and bold because you have that contrast with the white. As the pictures continue, I just want to say we're not done with these tags. There's no quote, there's no caption. And for me, that means it's not done. But that has been saved for the next technique tag video, where we're going to talk about fonts and the fun that you can have to create personalized quotes for your tags. Now go out and make at least 3 tags, one from each category.